Enough of the preamble. It's time to cover the 8 requirements. In order to keep this video a reasonable length, I will cover the requirements at a high level. Number 1. Roofing materials, solar power generation components, and backing electronics with manufacturer direct sales, installation, warranty, service, and support. Given the investment involved, the system owner is entitled to direct access to the manufacturer for purchases, and in the event of product issues, direct support to speed repairs. The core components used in optimal solar roofing are basically consumer electronics. It's time the manufacturers treated them as such. The old model of unreliable, independent installation companies selling, installing, and supporting systems needs to come to a swift end. A franchise model with the manufacturer as the backing entity appears to make the most sense for many of the components involved. As we will see shortly, optimal solar roofing is a fixed configuration of components. This fixed configuration opens the door for higher profitability for the manufacturers and an optimal experience for the customer. Number 2, roof-mounted solar power generating products that do not affect the main roof reliability or warranty. A reliable and watertight roof is the primary design goal of optimal solar roofing. This requirement drastically limits the solar generating components that can even be considered. There are very few solar generating component manufacturers that are also roofing material manufacturers. As of mid-2024, Certainteed manufactures the best products available. Their design is so good, standard roofing contractors can install them. Expensive solar professionals are not needed. I am not a skilled roofing contractor, and even I can install them. This single point has huge cost benefits for the buyer. There are only a few other companies that are roofing material manufacturers and also solar generating component manufacturers. I will cover them in detail in a competition video later in the series. The net is, their design, capabilities, and costs are simply not as good as the Certainteed Solstice Solar Shingles. Please remember, if additional power generation is required, solar panels can always be installed on non-roof surfaces in the optimal solar roofing architecture. Number 3, simplify and shorten the design, permitting, and installation process. There are 4 primary reasons the current process is complex, expensive, and takes a great deal of time. A. Custom designs with multiple component types are the norm for most installations today. B. There are specific building and electrical codes that must be met to ensure the safety of residents, utility workers, and first responders. C. Utility company equipment must not be damaged by solar power generating installations. And D. Managing the currents and high voltages generated in legacy DC string inverter-based architectures safely is problematic. Optimal solar roofing covers all of these items. First, the configuration is fixed, not custom. Common designs and plans can be used for most all installations. The Enphase components include all of the safety features required for people and equipment. Further, the Enphase components can work within the existing wiring capacity in the home or business. This has huge cost and schedule benefits as no utility service upgrades or main panel upgrades are required. Next, microinverters convert to safer AC electricity at the source. Legacy high-voltage DC wire routing is complex and tedious due to thermal requirements necessitating potentially long and expensive metal conduit runs. Optimal solar roofing has only very short and safer low-voltage and low-current DC wire runs, which quickly terminate in the metal boxes for conversion to AC. As I started making this series of videos, I was notified one of the main string inverter manufacturers is entering the microinverter and backing electronics business. Once all the facts are in, microinverters are simply better and safer. The optimal solar roofing architecture will enable simplifying the process and shortening the time required to begin generating power. Number 4, locally sourced components and support. In the past few years, U.S. laws have made local manufacturing a business priority for the manufacturers involved. Because of these laws, the made locally situation is already quite positive with the components chosen. I will provide additional details in future videos. Providing support by local personnel is also key to maintaining customer satisfaction as communication issues are kept to a minimum. 5. Minimize costs and allow for costs to be spread over time, potentially years. With optimal solar roofing, you can install solar shingles on a roof surface or two and then pause. The wires are stored and capped in small metal boxes to meet code until you are ready to proceed. As an example, I could install solar shingles on one side of my third-story roof and then pause the installation process. Later, the large metal boxes can be added with microinverters and the Enphase combiner along with the shutoff switch. With this basic setup, you can obtain the initial benefits of your solar roof. Add solar panels to non-roof areas as desired or needed. The Enphase architecture is incremental. With the combiner in place, fixed batteries can be added to store power to avoid high power costs in the evenings during what is called peak rate time. Currently, Enphase sells a 5 kilowatt-hour battery. A 10 kilowatt-hour battery appears to be available soon. One or more of these batteries can be installed over time as your budget allows. Other Enphase components can also be added later. One will be covered shortly. Please note, to obtain tax benefits, certain components must be put into service in the same tax year. I will cover this topic in more detail during future videos. Number 6, avoid on-rooftop maintenance visits. The roof requires a fault-tolerant architecture to avoid rooftop visits. Rooftop visits must be avoided to minimize the risk of damaging the roof. With the optimal solar roofing 5 solar shingles to 1 microinverter architecture, 2 solar shingles can fail before the microinverter will stop producing power. As the microinverters are not installed on the roof with optimal solar roofing, warranty replacements have no impact on roof reliability. Number 7, at least a zero-cost electric bill. Depending on where you live, different net energy metering or NEM programs are in place. As optimal solar roofing installations will be new installations, please be aware power companies will likely be charging you more for power during peak rate times. This is normally in the late afternoon and evenings. The power companies generally pay less for power during the day when solar generation is at its peak. What this means is if you desire a $0 electric bill, you will need to charge batteries during the day while the sun is shining, and then use that power in the late afternoon and evenings to avoid ever buying electricity from your local power company. As mentioned earlier, the Enphase components include batteries, which can be added over time as your budget allows. If you have the budget, battery storage capacity, and sufficient solar generating capacity, you can even sell power back to the utility for potential profit in some geographies. All of these options are supported by the optimal solar roofing architecture. Number 8, be unaffected by utility grid power outages. If the utility grid fails, your solar generation components and permanent batteries must stop producing power. This requirement is to protect the utility workers restoring the power. This feature is built into the Enphase microinverters and batteries. If you desire to be unaffected by power outages, one additional Enphase component must be added. This component is called a system controller. The system controller can form a microgrid when utility power fails. It isolates your battery and microinverter output to only your home or business. The Enphase system switches over very quickly. You might not even notice the utility power is out. There are 2 types of outages, short-term and long-term. I recommend 5 to 20 kilowatt hours of battery capacity to cover short-term outages. Review your daily power usage from your utility bill to determine how much power you use in a single day to size your short-term battery capacity needs. If you would also like to plan for long-term power outages, you can purchase additional Enphase batteries. However, this is not as cost-effective as going another route. General Motors and Ford have entered the backup battery market with very compelling offerings. A Chevrolet Silverado EV 4WT is a 205 kilowatt-hour battery with a 240-volt 30-amp outlet included. This is simply another name for a generator. The equivalent Enphase battery capacity at list price would be $164,000. The Chevrolet product is only $80,000 at MSRP and is frequently discounted. The Chevrolet battery, with its unique packaging, can likely power your home or business for the better part of 2 weeks. If the sun is shining during the outage, this battery can be recharged during the day by your solar shingles and solar panels, extending its ability to provide power. Apparently, you can also use these batteries as pickup trucks, further extending their value. Who knew? Please be aware at the present time to use this big Chevrolet battery, the Enphase system would have to be turned off. While this is not optimal, it is likely tolerable during a long-term outage. I plan to work with Enphase to allow the Chevrolet battery to be plugged directly into their system controller. The concept is to only use its capabilities later in the evening and overnight to recharge the Enphase batteries and power the home. When the sun rises the next day, the solar shingles, solar panels, and now full Enphase batteries would take over. Please do not buy into the current hype of the bidirectional chargers vehicle manufacturers are offering for some of their electric vehicles. These products are expensive and require changing your solar generation architecture to accommodate their products. I received a quote of $14,000 installed for one of them. Enphase plans to release a standards-based bidirectional charger as soon as the vehicle manufacturers support the standards. Supposedly, this will happen in 2025. That's it for a high-level view of the 8 requirements. Thank you.